Hello, thank you so much for being here.
Thanks for having me.
I am so excited to dive in, and I was wondering if you were ready.
I'm all ready.
So, I would love to start with little you. Tell me about her. What was she like, and what did she dream about?
Little Kiki was definitely a ball of energy. I had so much energy. Definitely always was a leader, at school, outside of school, like always kind of wanted to lead whatever group I was with and take charge. I was also very creative from a young age and somehow always very business minded. I don't know how, but even when I was like 10 or less than 10, I found these like brochures the other day at my parents' house, but I called it Kiana's babysitting services. And I made like flyers. I had like a pricing list. And I'm like, how did I do this at such a young age? But yeah, I loved things like that. I loved like performing, dancing. Growing up, I always did like theater camp and, I did figure skating. So that had like dance components. So I definitely was very extroverted for sure. And just like a natural born leader. And I'm not really sure what my dreams were like back then, but I did enjoy like being on camera, being the center of attention, like things like that. But clearly, I was always very business minded, and that's the direction I ended up taking even as I got older. So that's what little Kiki was like.
I love that so much, and that brings me so much joy. And just to see all of that come through now as well, I think that's so wonderful. I would love to learn more about your personal fitness journey. When did that start, and how and where did you begin to start to learn the fundamentals?
So I would say it really, really started the first time I stepped foot in the gym. Like officially, I was in my last year of high school. But transparently, when I first went to the gym, I kind of just wanted to like say that I went to the gym, like the guys were going to the gym, I thought it was like a cool thing to do, but I was definitely very intimidated, wasn't really sure what I was doing. Prior to that, I would do, fitness movements through my like figure skating that I would do weekly. We would call it off ice, but that would be things like squats and wall sits, things that would be helpful for my training on ice essentially. But then I started getting a little bit more into it once I started university because my roommate at the time, she was super into going to the gym. So she would be like, "Oh, like come with me to our condo gym." And I would go with her and I would kind of just do whatever she's doing. And her workouts were really hard. So it was mostly like abs and treadmill and things like that. But in my first year of university, I definitely put on some weight. Not anything crazy, but just like your typical, we call it freshman 15 here in Canada. And it just comes from the fact that I had moved out for the first time. I didn't cook at all. So I was eating a lot of outside food. I was partying, like all those things really added up. And once that first year was over, I realized I was like, oh wow, like I look really different. And that first summer after my first year, my parents had a personal trainer that they were going to. And because I was back for the summer, I was like, oh, like I'd love to join you guys. So it was kind of cute. It was like me and my parents. We would go to this personal trainer in her house. And that's the summer that kind of really kicked off for me in terms of fitness. I started to understand, okay, how can I actually move my body? And I made really good progress that summer because I had more guidance. I was, kind of watching what I was eating after that first year. Once those 4 months were over, I felt like I really, really got into fitness and I had a really big passion for it. So going into my second year, I was starting to become more independent and going on my own and going more regularly. And then every time I would be working out with a friend, I noticed that I was always leading the workout. I was always like, oh, I'm going to take us through this workout. This is exactly what we're doing. that natural born leader in me was coming out. And so that following summer, I decided to become a certified personal trainer. And I was actually really quite young. I was 19 at the time. And I felt like that was really young. Like, personal trainers typically are a little bit older. And I was like, oh, wouldn't it be so cool if I became certified before I turned 20? Like, just me being ambitious. So I did that. It took about 4 or 5 months because I was working full time that summer. And I didn't have any background in kinesiology or anything like that science related. I was always a business girl through and through. So it was a lot of studying, but I got my certification. It was summer of 2017. And from there, I also started my Instagram, which back then, like it wasn't really a thing to like
No, it's
post.
really grown to what it is today. Yeah.
Now it's like so common, but back then it was really on YouTube. So like fitness influencers were posting like YouTube workouts, but it was slowly starting to get on Instagram, but not really. So I started my page as soon as I became certified because I felt like I was at a point where I had the knowledge to comfortably be able to share that information. I'm all for that. Like, I feel like if you're sharing information about something, especially so important like fitness and nutrition, you need to be knowledgeable on it, which I know a lot of people don't do these days. But I just felt like that was the right thing for me to do. So that's when I started posting my workouts and things like that. But it's changed a lot since then, for sure.
I love that. And I love how your innate sense of leadership, passion for movement, and just desire to tell your story all came through. There's also that piece you mentioned about being so passionate about business and being a business girly. And I'm so curious, what was the journey like from going from corporate marketing to then building your coaching platform and business? And what was really the moment that you knew you had to make that leap?
hmm So after university, I went into like completely into marketing. I worked at some banks and then I worked in the real estate space, but still just doing marketing. And simultaneously, I was running my Instagram. And as you know, it's a lot of work. It's not like I would call it like my side job, but sometimes it really felt like a full-time job in addition to a full-time job for me. It's really hard when you're posting so consistently and trying to grow. And so I felt like fitness was such a big part of my life, but I was treating it as this like part-time job. And even when I was doing personal training, like after I became certified, it was always a part-time thing. It was either after work in the evenings or on the weekends. That's when I was doing my personal training. I never ever took fitness full-time ever. And it was just kind of ironic because it was just like such a big part of my life. But I think there's definitely that fear, and I'm sure so many people in my position who currently work corporate, but they have a passion outside of that corporate job that they're so passionate about. It's so hard to make that leap because you're scared and you're like, how do I know I'm going to be successful in that or I'm going to be able to make enough money to provide for myself and live comfortably? But I truly, and I didn't get this until I actually did it myself. If you're so passionate about something and if you truly give it your 100%, you will be successful in it. That's my mindset about it. And you will not know if you're going to be successful at something until you actually try, but like not 50%, like the full 110%. So the moment it kind of hit for me, I had been working corporate for about 5, 6 years. I had gotten my MBA and I was in a position where I was looking for a new job because there wasn't much work left for me at the company that I was at. So I knew that I needed to look for another job. I was looking for more of like a brand manager role, like something like that. But I was approached at the same time by an e-health platform who was really interested in working with me and wanted to help me to launch an online coaching business. And it took me a little bit. It took a lot of convincing for me to finally say yes. But I think in that moment, I was just like, you know what? If not now, then when? I'm young. I have my MBA in my back pocket. If this doesn't work out, I know that I can find a job. I'll be okay. I was also still living at my parents' house at the time. I didn't have any rent to pay or a mortgage to pay like I do now. And I'm like, I can afford to make a little bit of less income at the beginning and just, give this a try. And my husband was also so incredibly supportive and he really pushed me. He's like, Kiana, like you should try this. You should do this. Like you've always wanted to do fitness full time. So, why not just give it a try? So that's the push I needed. And it was so scary at first. Like it was terrifying. But because of my situation, honestly, when I was weighing the pros and the cons, like the pros really outweighed the cons. So, I mean, now I'm so happy that I did it.
That is such a beautiful story, and there's so many nuggets there for anyone who's either looking to make the leap or who's just starting out their platform and they just know that they have a passion to put themselves out there. They know that there's so many different paths it can take, especially given how dynamic the online space is. And I think it's so wonderful that you were able to both lean on your MBA background, but also had such a holistic support system and opportunities that you could just think about and lean on so that you could make the big scary leap. But you put in that effort and you built something so amazing to, access those opportunities. And I'm so curious about what those early days looked like up until you were then, building out your team and really leveraging those things that you learned in your MBA as a business owner. How did all of that come to be?
The beginning was really rough. Like, I'm not even going to sugarcoat it because as a business owner, you are wearing 10 different hats at once. And yes, I work with, a company who provides the platform for me, but the entire business is my own, right? So I think the first thing that really, really shocked me and took me back was the sales process. And to this day, over a year, since launching, I still take all the calls myself. And I had no sales experience when launching my business. I've always done marketing, but I've never done sales before. I am actually not one to love talking on the phone, to be completely transparent with you. So when I first launched, there was a lot of interest in my program. I've never, had an online coaching program before. People were curious about it. They wanted to learn more. They were, interested in working with me, but didn't really know what it entails. And I remember the day of my launch, I got so many leads. I had so many people sign up. I was so excited. And then I would get on these calls and it was rejection after rejection after rejection. And it's really hard, as someone who's never had sales experience, didn't have as much of a thick skin as I do now. You take it personally, even though it's not personal at all. It could be so many different things. It could be, maybe the price is too high for that person, or maybe that's not the type of service they're looking for because they had no idea what the service was in general. So it was hard, but yeah, I took it personally and I was getting rejection after rejection after rejection. And like I had some really low points in that first month. But as time went on and to this point now, I'm so impressed with myself in terms of my sales skills. And it doesn't even come from a business standpoint of like, oh, I need to get this client. Like these calls for me are really to connect with that client, understand what their story is. How did you get to this point that you are now? What are you really struggling with right now? What's your lifestyle like? What job do you work? And so I really, really enjoy talking on the phone. And I have the option to pass on my sales to someone and get someone else to do them to free up my time. But I personally choose not to because to me, that's like the most important touch point is like really understanding that client before they join the program. And if they don't, I don't take it personally anymore because for whatever reason, it just doesn't work for them. And, that's okay. And I hope to be able to work with them in the future. But that was definitely one thing at first that really was hard for me and really challenging. And then when I decided to grow the team was kind of 6, 7 months into the business client base was growing and when you're running your own business, you have to be very mindful of your time and what's taking up most of your time. And I'm someone who likes to be all hands on deck with everything. I'm still like that. I need to work on that. But I had to kind of assess, like, okay, what is taking up the most amount of my time right now that could be given to someone else to help me out so that I can focus my time and energy on other parts of the business. And it really was those check-ins. As the client base grows, like it does take a lot of time. And so I was like, okay, I still want to be in control of creating my client programs and their meal plans and doing my sales calls and social media and all that stuff. But I need some extra support with these check-ins. And that's something that I just had to come to the realization that I need help. So then, yeah, from there, I started interviewing. I was looking for someone who lives local to me because I wanted to be able to meet up with them and create content together and be in the same time zone. And Isla's application came through, and I realized that she had been following me on Instagram for a really long time, like maybe like 6, 7 years. And I just really liked her vibe. And every time we spoke, I feel like we really saw eye to eye, and she had the same philosophy as me, same mindset as me. And so I brought her on the team, and she helps me now with a bunch of my client check-ins and just like client messaging and support. And she's awesome. Like was one of the best things I ever did because it allows me to be able to put more time into my client plans and programs as well as my calls. And, she really, really helps me out on those Mondays and Tuesdays. And she's so knowledgeable. Like I cannot speak more highly of her. She's so knowledgeable. And I feel like it was kind of like the missing piece to my business. And she's helped so many of my clients and given them such great advice and tips. So I'm really, really happy I brought her on. But that's kind of how the beginning of the business went to kind of where I'm at now.
I love that so much. And I'm so grateful that you spoke both to the challenges and really leaning into strengthening the areas that you knew you were still so passionate about. And so there's this deeper sense of why and wanting to connect with those clients and really wanting to make sure that there is a fit between what your philosophy is, what you're looking to offer, and the clients. And of course, with sales rejections can really, really hurt. And just hearing how you transformed it from being something that felt personal to something that you now know is part of the business world and just a part of sales
Yeah.
is so special to hear. And there's also that piece you mentioned about hiring intentionally and thoughtfully and knowing where your energy is being put and what you still want to work on. And I'm sure there's so many other components to the business as well. And I'm so curious about present day and your biggest takeaways. I'm sure there's, numerous other challenges that have come up as they do, but you've just gotten stronger and more intuitive and been able to navigate those as well. So, sitting here today, what would you say are your biggest takeaways from now, running such a successful fitness business?
Number one is that it's really hard. It's really hard, honestly. I work more now than I've ever worked in my entire life. And this is just me being super transparent. And I would still consider myself so early in my business. It hasn't even been a year and a half yet. So at this point, I can say that's one of my biggest takeaways. But it's, so fulfilling for me and I love what I do. And that's why I'm okay to do all this work because I really, really, really love it. But like I said, you wear a lot of hats. There's a lot of things that you kind of have to do. And the social media piece is still huge, right? Because that is where I market my business. So on one end, it's making sure my clients are taken care of. On the other end, it's making sure I'm pumping out more content so more people get to learn about me and my program, right? So it is a lot of work. Another takeaway I would say is definitely because this is a client facing business, I definitely work with a lot of people and a lot of different backgrounds and personalities. And that's something you have to learn how to manage and handle because everyone is so different. Everyone learns differently, everyone communicates differently. So it's going to be a little bit different for everyone, and just learning to be patient and learning to understand how to communicate with different types of people is super important for this type of business. Another thing I would say is my biggest takeaway is like client experience is everything. Like one thing about me is like when a client starts my program, I genuinely want to make sure they have the best experience because if they have a really good experience, then I know that they will recommend my program to someone else while they're in the program or after they finish the program. So communication is huge for me. I always want to make sure my communication is super strong with my clients, making sure their questions are getting answered, they feel super supported, making sure I'm updating their plans, making sure their, check-ins are done on time. I just think client experience is the most important thing. Um, and I also think I've learned that I'm better at sales than I thought. And I really enjoy it now. I genuinely really enjoy it. And I think it just comes down to the fact that I'm so passionate about what I'm talking about, right? I think if you're doing sales for a random company and a random product, you might not have the same opinion that I do, but because I'm selling my program, which I so believe in, and my services that I'm so confident about, that's why I feel like I've gotten so much better at it and I genuinely enjoy it so much. So I think I really surprised myself there. It was a skill that I picked up in this past year that I had never done in my life. So that was pretty cool.
Oh, I think that's so incredible. And I think we continue to learn more about ourselves with each new thing that excites us and the things that we are so passionate about. And I'm honestly surprised to hear that it's only been a year and a half of the program because I've been now with the program for almost half a year. And when I joined, it was such a wonderful professional experience. And I first found the program through an ad that I saw online that was talking about 80/20 eating and what you showed and described with simple emojis was so helpful for me to understand and just know within me that, okay, that, like what she's talking about, I really want that and I want to learn more. And that's what really compelled me to reach out to you. I was on a conversation with you, and then having joined the program, I absolutely loved the plethora of cuisines that you provided in the nutrition bits of your program and just really, really meaningfully benefited from all of your customized plans and all of the weekly check-ins you mentioned and the video responses for encouragement and advice from Ayla and yourself. And I was also so, so moved when you created body weight workouts for me that have so helped me stay consistent no matter where I go or the type of week I'm having. It's really made me have no excuses to show up. And so I've personally experienced all the benefits and the philosophy behind your program, but I would love for you to speak to it more and just share how you thought about it, how you designed it, and how those experiences that were so formative to you really shaped what it is today.
hmm I think you actually like touched on so many of them, but I'm going to reiterate them because I'm so passionate about these things. So, first and foremost, the number one I say, even when I'm on my calls, is like, I want to make sure this plan suits your lifestyle. Because if it doesn't suit your lifestyle, you are not going to use it. You're not going to stay consistent with it. And that's something that is really important for me. So when I'm on those calls, I want to understand what your lifestyle is like. What type of job do you work? Or do you work an office job? I have some clients who are nurses, or they're in med school, or they're doing their residency. They have very different lifestyles than your typical 9 to 5 corporate office job, right? And, with those clients, it involves me making like full at-home workout programs for them. And it works because they genuinely don't have time to get themselves to the gym. If we can do some movement at home, that's better than no movement. So, I really, really like my number one philosophy is making sure that whatever I'm making for you is suitable for your lifestyle. And if I make something and you are not able to keep up with it, or we need to change things, then we can absolutely do that. Modifications and changes can always be made in the program. It's fully customized for a reason. I don't like, I know a lot of people say that, they're like, oh, it's a customized plan. No, like it really, really is. Like the meal plans I make for my clients, I could have toggles on for your dietary preferences and just click refresh and the recipes can refresh. I go in and pick every single recipe and every single meal plan of my clients. And I'm sure other coaches don't do that because it's way too much work. But for me, it's so important. And as I create meal plans for you every month, I really start to understand your taste and what you actually like. And I really want to put things in there for you that you're actually really going to love so that you can use it as much as possible. So just again, really, really trying to make sure that it suits your lifestyle. If you need something quick and easy, I want to make sure it's quick and easy, so that you can actually be consistent with it on a week to week basis. And then that 80/20 approach is another huge philosophy for me because if you watch my what I eat in a day videos, I don't eat just ground beef, sweet potatoes, and avocado. I don't. I'm not even gonna lie. That's why I post those videos because for me, nutrition has to be enjoyable and it has to be fun. So I will always be making a fun recipe for myself. I will be having a sweet treat. Obviously, I'm not like going all out and having all this junk food. I am mindful of what I'm putting into my body, but I do believe that it's okay to have one outside meal a week. I believe that it's okay to have one sweet treat. And that's what allows me to be able to do this on a weekly basis. So that's something I really push on to my clients. And some of my clients kind of it clicks for them right away. Some other clients it takes a little bit of time, but it's something I keep kind of communicating and pushing out. And just, I think the last philosophy would be that I do not believe in going to any sort of extremes. I think that will never work. I always want to make sure that we are not cutting anything out of your diet. I love rice. I love rice. Rice will always be in your meal plan. I don't think you need to go to the gym every day. I don't think you need to cut carbs. I don't think you need to cut this, cut that. I just think that going to any extremes is always going to fail. So enjoy everything in moderation, but be mindful. And again, I guess it comes back to that 80/20 approach that was the first thing you saw of me. So that makes me happy.
Yeah, it was so wonderful. And I remember distinctly having this moment of thinking, okay, what does that mean? Like with a percentage, like what is the math? And thinking through, okay, what are typically the amount of meals I'm having in a day? What does that look like across a week? And so then what is 80% of that? And then what is 20% of that? And just having so much relief and excitement over knowing that there doesn't need to be restriction because 20% covers and spans a certain number and a certain amount, and the 80% covers a certain number and a certain amount. And so it doesn't feel like just one thing or just one day even. And it doesn't have to be that extreme and it doesn't have to feel, as I like to think of, pointy structure, something that pokes at you, but it gets to be something that is interspersed throughout your week. If you understand the percentage, you don't have to hit anything exactly because throughout a week, depending on your lifestyle or your preferences, the amount of meals you're having, the snacks, all of those things might shift. And so there's this fluidity, but you just, as you strengthen your muscles in the gym, you're strengthening your ability to uh, either track this in some sort of way or think about this in some sort of way. But I was so grateful to have all of those meal options and to really feel like I had agency and excitement about having this full balanced plate. And I'm so grateful for that experience and was so curious about across all of your experiences, there's and the clients that you've met and worked with and mentored, there's definitely certain things that allow people to stick to those sustainable habits. And then there's other maybe common things that can cause folks to feel more stuck, or maybe it just takes them a little bit longer, or their um, process needs some reworking
Mhm.
and more guidance from yourself, even though maybe you're providing the same philosophy to the same set of clients. I was so curious about what some of those common pitfalls might be. You touched on extremes, but of course, this
Mhm.
looks different and feels different across all different sorts of people. But knowing that I felt such a major shift, I'm just so curious about what some of those common pitfalls are.
Yeah, I would definitely say the first two are the ones I just mentioned. So, number one, giving a client a plan that's not built for their lifestyle, it's just setting them up for failure. And the second one would be something that's too extreme or unrealistic. And unfortunately, there are programs and trainers out there who their number one priority is making sure that this client makes the most amount of progress as quickly as possible. However, that might not be done in a healthy or realistic way. And the only reason I'm saying this is because I've gotten on calls with clients who have told me about their previous experiences with other programs, and they're, given meal plans at 1,200 calories. And I'll ask them on the call, I'm like, how do you feel? And they're like, I feel so exhausted and tired and weak. And it's unfortunate that there's programs out there where they're giving clients plans like this, because to me, the only intention behind it is like, I'm going to give this really extreme meal plan so this client loses weight as fast as possible. And then my job is done, and then that client finishes and sure, they've lost the weight, but they're absolutely drained and underfueled and exhausted, or they gain the weight back right after, So something I always like to kind of say is like, I want to make sure I'm creating a plan for you where after you've lost the weight, which I think you can speak on yourself, we can actually maintain it. And then we can, maintain that new weight that you've achieved and focus on getting stronger and building muscle. And I think that's just as important. So plans fail because they're not realistic or they're too extreme. And also, a big thing is lack of accountability. I think that if I were to just make these plans for my clients, but I wasn't messaging or doing check-ins or, keeping up with my clients' activity and progress, I don't think my clients would be as successful as they are, because a big part of joining a program like this is having someone to check in with you and push you. And, you might just need that for a little bit of time until you feel like you can do it on your own. But that accountability is huge. No online platform or ChatGPT, like ChatGPT is not going to message you and see how you're doing and make sure you're doing your workouts, right? So I think a big thing of the success of a program like this is having that real person accountability who is making sure you're getting your workouts done, is making sure that on a weekly basis you are getting in enough steps or actually sticking to your nutrition and answering your questions. So I think that lack of accountability is a huge pitfall for a program like this.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing that was so powerful that I noticed from this virtual fitness training model was that through the program and the app, it was collecting the data related to the steps, or how long I was doing the workout, or what I did and in what order. And it was just, naturally a part of um, doing the workouts and using the nutrition guides and doing the check-ins. And what's so powerful about that is you can, in one place, go back and see what you did and what those patterns were. And from my experiences, I think that's been really powerful to have an ability to look back and even drive self-accountability in that way, because what you've shared is so powerful, and it's that combination of things where you can see your progress, and if you feel like you can't see your progress, there's someone to really push you to see that and celebrate it. And I absolutely love that about the program. And I was so curious if you could speak more to how it's built between the weekly check-ins as well as the community calls, because that's another really special aspect of both community and accountability and being able to meet in a group and really commit to saying, hey, I'm really interested in this and this is really important to me. And so I was wondering if you could speak more to that and the community aspects of the program.
Yeah, I think the community aspect is a great kind of like bonus feature about the program. And it's something I don't really mention on my calls initially, but then once the client is in the program, it's more of like a surprise. This is also included. And it's usually just like taken so well. The client will be like, oh, wow, like this is so cool. But I just think, especially in an online world, you can feel, especially if you don't have maybe people around you physically who are on a similar journey as you or are taking their fitness and nutrition as seriously as you are, you can feel very alone, or you can sometimes feel like you're doing too much when you're really just trying to better yourself and you just don't have people around you who really understand that. So I think for me, creating a community in my program was so important because I don't want my client, obviously they have me, they have Isla, but I want them to feel so seen and supported by other people in their position as well, and other women to be more specific because I only train women. And I think it's just so powerful to have a community of like-minded women who are all trying to better themselves in some sort of way, even if everyone has like a slightly different goal or they're in a slightly different part of their journey. I think there's so much to learn from each other and so many ways to motivate each other. So those community group calls we started about, I would say like halfway through last year. It wasn't something I started doing initially, but we realized that in the weekly check-ins, there were certain topics that were coming up quite frequently. And we realized that the ladies in the program had similar questions and concerns and things that they were, wanting to learn more about. So we were like, okay, why don't we do a call once a month, just 30 minutes, but talk about something different every time, something that we feel like most women in the program can benefit from or learn from. So we've done a handful of them up to this point now, and they've all been so amazing. I feel like I learned so much. Again, Isla's amazing. She has so much knowledge. And it's so great to see all the women on the call and asking questions, and even just taking away one thing makes me so happy. So to give you a little bit of kind of the topics that we've talked about, the most recent one we did a few days ago was about bloating, which is that was our biggest call yet because I feel like bloating is like number one, most commonly asked. It's something that unfortunately a lot of us women are going through more frequently these days. And it's for so many reasons, but that was a great call. We touched on a little bit about PCOS as well, which has become super popular and common these days as well. We've talked about progress beyond the scale, which to me is a really, really important topic. It's something I really preach a lot about is, yes, we track your weight through the weekly check-ins, but I don't want you, letting that affect you too much. I always tell my clients, I don't want you weighing yourself more than once a week. I want you to focus on how you feel in your clothes and how you feel in the mirror and how you feel in the gym. Like progress beyond the scale is so important. Um, we also did another call all about just like education around nutrition when it comes to ingredients lists and nutrition facts, and understanding that just because something is low calorie and high protein doesn't mean that it's necessarily good for you. And just teaching the girls how to actually read the labels and make better choices when they're doing their groceries. So those are kind of a few topics we've done, and we're going to continue to do these calls every month. I feel like there's always something to talk about, but to answer just like your overarching question about community, I think that it's a great way to hold each other accountable, normalize struggles, because at the end of the day, all of these calls that we do are kind of touching on a different struggle that we feel like a lot of the women in the program are can relate to, and just making sure that everyone feels less alone and have this huge support system behind them on their journey.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I love how they're always recorded. And so you can go back to it. And if for some reason with your time zone or work or any other restrictions, you're not able to make it, you can go watch the recordings, which has been so helpful for me. I think, yeah, it's sometimes like hard for me to make the calls, but I just love watching the all the insights and just hearing about all the advice. It's truly been so helpful, and I'm so grateful that that is part of the program. And as you were speaking, I was also thinking about how when I started, I knew that I had to detach from the measurements on the scale and the photo aspect and even the measurements with the tape measure. But I think that when you do see the shifts and you do see all of the progress beyond the scale, all of it just adds up to getting really excited about doing the next check-in. And so I think being able to detach from that and to really listen and internalize what you'd shared helped so much because it is so important to have those early photos to just see your progress and muscle definition and all of the data as I shared about how you're getting stronger and lifting heavier. And I think all of those things are so meaningful in a fitness journey. So thank you so much for putting all of that together. And I would love to dive into our rapid fire round. It doesn't have to be that quick if you have longer answers, but are you ready?
Sure, I'm ready.
Awesome. What does wellness mean to you today?
Ooh. I would say wellness means feeling strong, feeling energized, feeling confident in your body. I would say that wellness means that finding a balance in your life, not only with fitness and nutrition, but everything, finding an overall balance rather than going to any extremes. And just having a routine that is sustainable long term.
I love that so much. What does leadership mean to you today?
For me personally, leadership means being as honest and vulnerable as I possibly can with this world of social media that we have now, where so many things are fake and curated. I just want to make sure that I'm being as vulnerable and honest as possible, being a leader figure in the fitness space, or that's how I, come across on social media. I just want to make sure that I'm also being honest about what I struggle with, what I'm insecure about, what I'm not good at. And it's a hard thing to do, but I think it just allows my audience to be able to relate to me more and realize that like I go through the same struggles that they go through as well. Um, and just like try to create impact in any way that I can and trying to preach and teach as much as I can about things that I feel like I'm knowledgeable about and passionate about.
I love that. Yeah. And I definitely see all of that coming through. So thank you
I'm
so
glad.
much. From everything that we've talked about today, is there anything else that you would like to share?
I would say if you are early on in your fitness journey or just starting out or wanting to start out, you don't need to be perfect or have a perfect routine in order to see results. I think something that holds a lot of people back from starting and really going full force with their fitness journey is like, oh, let me just finish this and then I'll start. Or let me just come back from this vacation and then I'll start. Or let me like wrap this up and then I'll start. There's no perfect time to start. There's never going to be a perfect time to start. You just have to do it and take baby steps. I think that's the most important thing is not just going into it with like, okay, I'm going to start working out 5 days a week. I'm going to meal prep every single day. I'm going to get 10K steps every single day. Like you really just have to take baby steps. And if that means starting with one workout a week and making food once a week, like just do that. because I feel like that's just what holds people back the most. And what else would I would say? Like consistency is the most important thing. So again, playing off of like you don't have to be perfect. You just have to try your best to do it every single week. Whatever you are setting for yourself, just do it every single week. And that's how you're going to be the most successful on this journey. And the last thing I would say is that it's never too late to start. Like I think anyone can start, bettering their health and fitness journey at any age, at any point. It's never too late to start. And I think it's really important that you think more long term, not just the aesthetics and the physical side of things, more of like an internal mental health, our physical health, being able to feel strong in our body as we're aging and getting older, and being able to do all the things we want to do in love. I think that, starting your fitness journey is very important for that as well. So it's never too late to start.
I love all of this so much, and I will plug all of your links of where listeners can find you and find your program in the show notes. And I'm so, so grateful for all of your wisdom and all of your efforts and everything that you share online as well, vulnerably and with true leadership. So thank you so, so much.
Thank you. And thank you for being such an amazing client. I have to shout you back as well because you truly put in the work every single week, and to see your body transform from when you first
Mm.
started until now, it's truly incredible. And I love, like, I'm always looking forward to your check-ins. I always love learning, what you really worked on that week and improved on that week. And, it's all about getting that 1% better every single week. So I just want to say I'm so proud of you too.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much. It's been such a delight, and I'm so excited for just getting stronger and just learning
Yes.
more and for that 1% every day as you shared. So thank you.
Yay. Thank you for having me.